right? And so never allowing a situation or circumstance to define your life, and understanding that you got something inside of you that's greater than that situation or that circumstance, but you have to constantly believe it. And not only believe it, you have to make decisions and choices every single day that put you a step forward toward what you believe your destiny is. Either somebody is in the midst of adversity, or just came out of adversity, or it won't be long before they head into adversity. So you need to be prepared either way. And so we all go through adversity, opposition. I think that's the thing that makes us all in common as people. Right? No matter if you're from London, Atlanta, Florida, California, New York, like we're all going to go through something at some point or phase in our life, right? And as cliche as it sounds, when the quote says, it's never about what happens to you, it's about how you respond to it. That's very true, right? But in the same sense, I think what's most important is when we go through something, what's the perspective that we have of it, right? Because for most people, when you go through something, the person's natural perspective is, okay, what did I lose, right? What happened to me? Like I took a loss, right? People never look at it and say, okay, man, tell me, what did you gain, right? Even though I know it hurt, you didn't want to go through it, but look at it in a way to where you can say, what's the lesson in this, right? What would you say life is trying to teach you from dealing with this? And so when I went through it, my perspective was, okay, what can I extract from it to apply to other areas and aspects of my life that I feel can help other people? And I firmly believe the quicker you can shift your perspective from yourself to others when you're in the midst of adversity, the quicker you'll get through it, right? Martin Luther King has a quote that says, life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing to help other people? Now, I'm not telling you to not acknowledge your pain. I'm not saying that. I'm not telling you not to say, man, I'm going through this and it's hard. I'm not saying that. I'm saying when you go through it, look at it, step back from the picture and say, okay, I'm dealing with this. 9 out of 10 times, it's somebody else that's either dealt with it or they're going to deal with something similar to this. And if I deal with it in the right way, I can use it to add value to lives of other people. The funny thing was, I had never heard of the injury that I suffered. Never heard of it. When I went through it, I met probably 10 guys years after that had been going through it, that I could talk to at different stages and phases in the process and say, hey man, Ink, how did you deal with this? How did you deal with this? When they told you this, how did you accept that? And I was like, bingo, this is how I got through it. But I had to shift my perspective from why me to why not me? Can you take the things you learned that made you great in that sport and apply them to other areas and aspects of your life to make you just as great as a person? Man, it's funny. I think the true measure of wealth is happiness, right? Like I really do. And that's not saying that I'm against money. I'm not against that at all, because you gotta work hard, make your money to take care of your family and be able to bless people. But I think it's a lot of people with so-called wealth and they don't have joy and they don't have happiness, right? And I feel like joy, happiness is peace is the most important things we can possess, right? And for most people, their material possessions, they feel are the most important. For me, when you got joy, when you got peace, when you got happiness, I think that's true wealth, because you can't put a price on that.
There are going to be wave after wave after wave after wave of inconvenient that hits you in the mother face, all right? That doesn't matter. People who win regardless of those waves. It's not that they don't have those waves, it's that they say, hey, I can't control what the f is going on. All I control is what I decide in my mind and the actions I take. Some days are going to be harder than others. Some days are going to be a little easier than others. But I can promise you one thing for sure. There will never, ever, ever be a day that goes exactly as you want it to go.
The world owes you nothing. The world doesn't think you're special like your mom does. It doesn't think you're a delicate little flower. It doesn't care about you. Now, with that being said, the world doesn't hate you. It doesn't want you to fail. It just is, okay? You don't know everything, okay? You have to understand winning in business is not about you personally as the CEO of a company being the best at every skill set. There's certain things in my company that I have no a clue on how to do. But that's okay. My job is to go out and find people that can do that far better than myself so that we can win as a team. And this attitude of, I've got to be the best and I've got to win and I've got to, and I'm the best at everything and I know more than you. It makes horrible leadership. Nobody fucking respects that. People respect when you look them in the eye and you say, hey, what do you think? And then they give you an answer, and then it's your job to decide whether or not that is the best thing to do or whether or not somebody else has the best thing to do. It's okay to not have all the answers. It's okay to not be right. It's okay to admit that you weren't right. And in fact, if you want the respect of your team and your peers, you will be willing and able to admit that you made mistakes the minute that you make them. You want to be somebody who succeeds. You want to be somebody who builds something. You want to be somebody who people write books about one day. You are going to have to be okay with being bad at for a long time. And that's the mentality you guys have to have. You have to be okay with looking like an idiot for a long time. People start what-ifing themselves. All right. They say, all right, I got this great idea, but what if I do all this work and it doesn't work? What if I put in all this time to become an excellent employee and I don't get promoted? What if I put in all this work to become an excellent salesman and I don't sell? What if, and I'll tell you what if, where you're going to be. Because it isn't going to be any better than where you are now. You talked yourself out of going after what you were supposed to go after. You talked yourself out of your purpose. You talked yourself out of the idea that success is cause and effect, not magic luck or magic fairy dust. You see big things, you hear big things, you see people who do big things, and you automatically say, wow, that guy's so lucky. Wow, she's so lucky. Wow, that's so lucky that happened. Quit using the word luck, quit believing in luck, and start believing in work. Start believing in fortunate. Start believing in results that come from your actions. And when you do that, and you wholeheartedly believe it, guess what? That's what starts to happen.
It simply means that hard times are nothing more than growth coming to get you in wolf's clothing. I'm going to repeat that again with great love and respect because it's important. Hard times, we all go through hard times. It's really nothing more than growth in wolf's clothing. And the real game of the legend and history maker and titan and hero is growth. It's about taking your gifts and your talents and materializing them each day. And how do you do that? You do that by using every single thing that happens to you, good or bad, as grist for the mill. In other words, using everything that happens to you, painful and poetic, to make you stronger and to introduce you to the primal hero that lives at the core of every human heart. I've gone through some very difficult times in my life, sometimes where I was down on my knees, sometimes when I was so confused, sometimes when I was in the valley of darkness. And one of the things that helped me most, and that will help you as you navigate your turmoil and painful seasons of life, is you say, how can I use this to grow? How can I use this to shatter the covering over my ego so I become more creative, more productive, more loving, more of service, more on fire, more of a history maker to humanity in my own unique way? If you look at the greatest people of the planet, the true leaders, the true history makers, the true servants of humanity, if you look at the greatest business builders, if you look at the greatest artists, they all had one thing in common. They suffered more than the ordinary person. If you look at the root of the word passion, it is to suffer. The root of the word passion is to suffer. The great ones suffer for their craft. They suffer for their mission. They suffer for their ambitions. They suffer for their service. So the second point, or the second way to get through hard times, is simply always be asking yourself, how can I use this to serve me, to make me stronger, more creative, tougher, braver, and more authentic? The third way to get through a hard time is to feel to heal. I want you to remember that brain too. If you want to heal it, you need to feel it. People come to me all the time. Robin, I'm heartbroken. Robin, there's someone trying to attack me. Robin, I've lost a business. Robin, I'm dealing with an illness. What do I do with all the pain? Well, here's the point number 3. Feel it to heal it. You know about my 4 interior empires model that is currently disrupting the field of personal mastery, elite performance, and leadership. It's not only mindset, that's only the first interior empire. The second one is heart set. The third one is health set. The fourth one is soul set. I go into it in great detail in my book, The 5 a.m. Club. Here's the point I want to share with you right now in this mastery session. On interior empire number 2, heart set. That is how you turn pain into power. A lot of people say, well, it's all about mindset. Read the books on getting through a difficult time. Read the books on amplifying your psychology. I want to introduce you to this new word I'm offering, your heart set. So when you're going through a difficult time, society says, run away from the pain, run away from the sadness, run away from the anger. What I'm suggesting to you is to heal the wound that someone caused you, or a condition caused you, or an experience has set up within you. You need to go into your heart set.
This is the ticket. This is what we get caught up in. We want to use the head and heart together, and then we have the power of both of them. So to do that, though, we got to give up the expectation that people are going to behave the way we want them to. Because what are the chances if your happiness is dependent upon everyone around you, your mother behaving the way you think she should, your father, your brother, your sister, your coworkers, your employees, what are the chances of everybody living the way you think they should? On a 0 to 100% scale, what are the chances? So why would we allow this to be? Because it's just a bad habit. And it's like my buddy Mike here with his daughter. Instead of trying to control her, he decides, I'm going to learn from her, I'm going to love her, I'm going to grow me. And that pulls her closer instead of pushing her further away. Instead of working on them, we're going to work on us. If I want to change you, the fastest way I can change you is change me, because we're in a cybernetic loop. If dad responds totally different than she can predict, she doesn't know how to deal with that anymore, now you have the upper hand. Now your love can penetrate her instead of the story in each other's minds. When he was talking to me on that first day about her, he was in his head. How many saw that? And then he left his head and got in his heart, and that's when he penetrated her. And look at mom over here smiling from ear to ear, going, nodding her head, going, yeah, that's cool. And look at Mike's big smile on his face, because he can feel the difference. So today we want to do our best to catch ourselves in our head, to get back in our heart. And then here's the biggest thing you need. You don't want to make the assumption that says, no, I've done 3 days and I'm done. This is the beginning, not the end. Who's with me on this? Say I. Now, it doesn't have to be the beginning with me. If you want to do more with me, come to Master University. Or you can go do it with someone else. But you got to keep growing. If you don't keep growing, none of this will matter. And you can have tremendous few months or half a year or a year. But why would you settle for 6 months because you went through the program? I remember one time I had a friend years ago, really good friend of mine. And he came to this seminar and he loved it. And he was on fire. And he went back and he lost 32 pounds and he changed his business, got closer to his wife. And then he ran into some challenges in one of his business, had 2 businesses, one of his businesses, and then their kid had some challenges, and he and his wife got stressed about it, and they started being stressed with each other in reaction to the environment. And so, it was like 6, 7, 8 months in, and I remember him saying, hey, Tone, I love that seminar, but dude, it didn't last. It was great for 6 months. I said, asshole. I said, who made you think you could do something for 3 days and it would even last 6 months? I said, do you think I just did 3 days and I've been this way for the last 40? No, I said 40 years ago, I started a journey that has never ended. And so we need a daily practice, right? Who's up for it here? Say I. And so I want to show you how I do this for me, and I want you to create your own system based on it. So if you and I are going to get lasting results, you got to do some things regularly. The first thing, and I call this immersion coaching, the first thing that I do still myself is I schedule myself at least twice a year, sometimes 3 times a year, to go to an event of some sort where I can make myself better psychologically, emotionally, relationship, finances, something. I call it an event blast off, because most people learn a language in high school and college. Who learned a language in high school and college? Let me see your hands. How many of you don't speak a fucking word of it now? Let me see your hands. What happened? You spent years, but you did it like 1 hour a day, 5 days a week. Immersion is the way to learn. When you're breathing like we're doing here all night, all day, it's not comfortable, but it's unbelievably fulfilling. How many are experiencing it right now? Say aye. You got to get over your mind going, I can't do this, it's too hard and all that shit. You got to push yourself through when you feel exhausted and say, there's a second wind in me, I'm going to find it. But if you go for immersion, you will master things 10 times faster than you will doing an hour a day or once a week or something like that. I mean, think about it. This seminar is 50 hours of the course of the weekend, 4 days. It's a lot of hours. I can make this so much easier. Let's do an hour a week for a year. We'll get 2 weeks off. It'll be easy. Would we get the same result? Yes or no? No way. So I'll give you an example. My wife and I, and we have an extended family member of mine named Mary, and Mary, the three of us travel together. Mary's my right arm. And so I drag Mary with us too, because she's part of our family. We just recently finished A Date with Destiny, which is my most powerful seminar. It's 6 days and nights, and it's an experience of some grads of A Date with Destiny. Cool. But it's one of my favorite things to do on earth, but it's not an easy thing on my body, as you might imagine. And it's incredibly fulfilling, but at the end of it, my body is complete toast, as you can imagine. And we were in Australia, in the Gold Coast, and I scheduled already some Aussies here, huh? Nice to see you guys. And I scheduled, because my life was so full, there was only like 1 week I could do this, and so I scheduled to go to this place in Sedona, Arizona, where this man for 39 years has been a neurological expert about how to wire your brain for alpha states, delta states, if you're familiar with those. But alpha is the expertise. And I want to, as great as my life is, I want to take another level. So I have more to give for my family, for my friends, for you, for myself. So we go for 7 days and nights. And this is what it was like. You got up first thing in the morning, 6:30, and you spent an hour and a half getting your brain wired with this glue shit. And they put like 180 of these electrodes on your head. My wife looked so attractive, and so did I. It was amazing. And then, after wiring you up with this goop, which by the way takes forever to get out afterwards, well, there's where we don't see the goop, you see just our hair afterwards. But the bottom line is, then you go in individual rooms. Like, I want to be with my family, right? I want to be with my wife, I want to be with my family, and I got to go in this dark little room that has no light, and it's freezing cold. It must be my karma for the shit I do to you people on a regular basis, right? And sure enough, I'm there for 14 hours in this room. You get 1 break, sometimes 2, run the restroom, and the entire time you are learning to think, and how you think, these electrodes create sounds, and you learn how to put yourself in the zone of alpha. But it's a bitch. It's horrible. I wouldn't recommend it to anybody that wants easy experiences, but I'd recommend it to anybody that wants to grow immensely. And by the first day, I'm like, who do I got to shoot to get out of this thing? Oh, it's me. I'm the one that did this shit. Right? But by the end of the week, all 3 of us were able to go into this state of alpha. And if you're familiar with alpha, the best way I can describe alpha is there's no problem that can't be solved in alpha. Because every problem that we have was created by us. Destruction of the environment to the pissed offness that you may have. And since we create the problems, any problem a human creates, we can solve. But you can't do it with the same level of thinking that got you there. So there's the science of it, and you can't cheat. This thing measures you. And then you take this freaking test with 300 questions 3 times a day, the same effing test. And it takes forever. And while you're answering it, these electrodes are seeing what you're doing. And then the guy sits down with you, and it's called sigmas, and he goes, well, this is 2 sigma, this is even, this is 10 sigmas. And the more sigmas is how far you are off from what you wrote, from what was really going on in your nervous system. So it's like, said something to me like that I was demanding. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm not demanding. What are you talking about? Right? But I guess I was, right? And you learn then how to let go of those old patterns, create new ones. So my point is, I'm doing okay in my life. I'm not exactly hurting. I'm having the most beautiful life I could possibly have. A beautiful mission, a beautiful family, beautiful children, grandchildren, beautiful experience to live in life. And yet I'm not willing to settle for that, because I'm here to deliver more for everyone I love, including myself. And so what I do is I schedule it. Because listen to me, when you talk about shit, it's a dream. When you envision it, it's exciting. When you plan it, it's possible. When you schedule it, it's real.
depression, frustration, anxiety, pain, disillusion. It's just a natural part of the process of becoming a stronger version of yourself.
Because problems are what make us grow. Problems are what sculpt our soul. Problems are what make us become more. If we can realize that life is always happening for us, not to us, game over. All the pain and suffering disappears. Your problem is your gift.
You're carrying dead weight. Because you got all this dead weight and you're operating over your capacity, it's going to take you that much longer to get there.
If you don't know your starting point, friend, you're never going to get to your end point. And so we're being honest and we're being vulnerable and we're looking within and saying, who am I really? And Tozer would say to you and I, you want to know who you are? Just check the circle of your friends.
You cannot get there with all of the people that you showed up with because your boat is at its capacity. If the boat is at 1,500 and because you're loyal, you have your boat now at 4,000 pounds in capacity. You are now on a boat that has blessings and opportunities, but it's overweight. It's past its capacity.
It don't matter what your mama think. It don't matter what your coworkers think. It don't matter what your siblings think. It don't matter what your children think. It don't matter. They have nothing to do with it. This decision is yours and yours alone. You get to decide. Let me tell you something. You get to decide if I'm gonna be rich, poor, mediocre, happy, sad. You have a decision to make.
As you grow up and get older, you start realizing what actually makes sense for your life and what don't make sense for your life. Because I grew up with my brothers and sisters doesn't mean that we're actually going to walk in the same path. Because I have my friends that I grew up with doesn't mean that we're going to move and walk and have our lives, family, mind state, career choice, the way we think, the way we move, moving in the same direction. And you should understand this, that it was always going to be your family and your friends that would be the first ones to try and talk you out of your vision and your big idea. That's why you're supposed to live your life. Focus on your intentions and do your thing. If I had paid attention to what people thought I was going to do with my life and what my career path would be, I would not be Tyrese Gibson.
Character is self-imposed discipline for the sake of moral convictions. Self-imposed discipline. That means a person of character doesn't need the police. They police themselves. A person of character locks themselves up in the prison of their own convictions and they throw away the key.
Some of y'all are loyal and have this power struggle with this concept called loyalty. You're so loyal, you're watching your career and your life and your surroundings crash and burn because you're being loyal to those friends. They're insecure and threatened by you and anything that you do and any move that you make. They are angry and mad and jealous and envious about anything that you have going. You hold on to things that don't make sense for the new season of your life. But because you actually know them, because you're comfortable with them, you hold on to dead weight. People are in your life for a reason. Other people are there for a season. But it's important to recognize when people's seasons are over.
Now, keeping in mind our idea that a courageous person is not someone who never feels fear, but who fears the right thing at the right time in the right way. What really scares people about these situations is the sense that they're going to be helpless, that all their trust was placed in somebody or something, and now they've been let down and they can't do anything. They're helpless.
Take your place make your mark and live your life. God didn't bring you in this world to wake up and die one day and just be another person that lived and died and didn't do anything significant in this world. You're still alive, so therefore God is not done with you.
Discipline is the root of all good qualities, but you have to absolutely apply it to things outside of just waking up early. It's everything. It's working out, making yourself stronger and faster and more flexible and healthier. It's about disciplining your emotions so you can make good decisions. It's about having the discipline to control your ego so your ego doesn't get out of hand and control you.
Character is sacrifice for principles. So character means you are willing to sacrifice friendship to protect your principles. You are willing to lose your best friend in order to keep your principles.
The first challenge is for us to find ourselves. And we find ourselves when we discover our purpose. Find that purpose. It's what makes you solid. It's what makes you secure. It's your mooring. It keeps you just exactly where you need to be so that you can accomplish what you want to accomplish.
And so I think that now more than ever, we must begin to look at what are the things that we can do that will enable us to do some things and use some powers that we have, that many of us go through life never ever discovering that we have those things going for us. And part of that, I believe, is knowing what it is your life worth. What is it that gives your life a sense of meaning and purpose?
A truly confident person's belief in himself is strong enough so that he's able to believe in others. Distrust in yourself breeds distrust in everyone you meet. A confident person gives you confidence. She creates confidence in others. The strength of her character makes you a stronger character.
Do you have character? Who are you with right now that you shouldn't be with? Think about it.
Society is conspiring all the time in our culture to completely distract you so you never win, to just divert your focus and attention. Look over here, look at this shiny thing. Worry about what's going on here in this war. And they get these different things on television and our phones and in our lives to just get us distracted so we never get obsessed. We never get laser focused. Ask yourself truthfully, your big goals and dreams, are you really clear on what they are? Because if you don't have that, we can't even get started.
Other people will often see how God shaped you before you do. Because when you're naturally good at something, you think everybody's good at it. They're not. And when you're good at something, you just think it's a normal thing. Well, everybody should be able to do that. Well, they don't. And so other people will actually have to point it out in you.
When the temptations outweigh the benefits, that's all it takes for some very unfortunate things to start happening. In my opinion, and I think there are very few exceptions to this, a bad person is simply somebody who doesn't have enough reasons to be good.
Fear kills hope. Fear put people in the hospital. Fear can age you, can hold you back from doing something that you know within yourself that you're capable of doing, but it will paralyze you. And I ask you a question, what is the benefit of giving up on yourself, of not stepping out on life and taking life on? What is the benefit for you? What's the plus in that?
And so ask yourself what you're willing to risk. What's the price you're willing to pay? Because what most people do when they're trying to chase their dream or their big outcome, the whole time they're negotiating the price in their head. Should I continue to do it? Is it worth it? I don't know if I can continue anymore. It's getting higher, and that price is failure. And what happens is, if you don't negotiate that price in advance, it's going to steal your focus and energy and become another distraction.
When you find your spiritual gift, all of a sudden it'll give you an energy that when you're in the area of your weaknesses, you get tired, don't you? But when you're in the area of your strengths, you're energized.
decide to develop the habit right now, the habit of focusing on what's right in your world instead of what's wrong. The habit of focusing on what you do have instead of what you don't have in a situation. Because those habits form the chain of your ultimate character, of who you become and how you end up living your life. We've got to condition ourselves, because if we don't, we'll go back to the automatic state that most people live in today's society.
Wisdom is a unique commodity, if indeed it can even be called a commodity. Unlike the other things people hunger for, wisdom is very hard to visualize. Books aren't wisdom. They're just pieces of paper bound together. Books can help create wisdom in people's mind, but if you look inside their heads, you won't find any wisdom there.
Credit goes to our awesome patrons who make videos like this one possible. Consider joining them to support our work. You can also support us by subscribing to our channel and clicking the bell button to get notified when our new videos are released. And as always, thank you for watching.
Welcome to Fresh Motivation. Today, we explore Stoic quotes to keep your mind strong. When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to think, to enjoy, to love. In your actions, don't procrastinate. In your conversations, don't confuse. In your thoughts, don't wander. In your soul, don't be passive or aggressive. In your life, don't be all about business. Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been. We should not, like sheep, follow the herd of creatures in front of us, making our way where others go, not where we ought to go. To be stoic is not to be emotionless, but to remain unaffected by your emotions. He who fears death will never do anything worthy of a man who is alive. It's time you realize that you have something in you more powerful and miraculous than the things that affect you and make you dance like a puppet. No person has the power to have everything they want, but it is in their power not to want what they don't have, and to cheerfully put to good use what they do have. Life is very short and anxious for those who forget the past, neglect the present, and fear the future. Don't seek for everything to happen as you wish it would, but rather wish that everything happens as it actually will. Then your life will flow well. I begin to speak only when I'm certain what I'll say isn't better left unsaid. Give yourself fully to your endeavors. Decide to construct your character through excellent actions and determine to pay the price of a worthy goal. The trials you encounter will introduce you to your strengths. Just keep in mind, the more we value things outside our control, the less control we have. When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. He has the most who is content with the least. Be stoic. Just do the right thing. Just keep going. My first rule is to keep an untroubled spirit. The second is to look things in the face and know them for what they are. The average man is a conformist, accepting miseries and disasters with the stoicism of a cow standing in the rain. Not to assume it's impossible because you find it hard, but to recognize that if it's humanly possible, you can do it too. Do not indulge in dreams of having what you have not, but reckon up the chief of the blessings you do possess, and then thankfully remember how you would crave for them if they were not yours. This is the mark of perfection of character, to spend each day as if it were your last, without frenzy, laziness, or any pretending. Do not act as if you had 10,000 years to throw away. Death stands at your elbow. Be good for something while you live, and it is in your power. The trials you encounter will introduce you to your strengths. Remain steadfast, and one day you will build something that endures, something worthy of your potential. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Keep at it, as a blazing fire takes whatever you throw on it and makes it light and flame. Treat whatever happens as wholly natural, not novel or hard to deal with, but familiar and easily handled. The easiest way to live unhappy and unsatisfied is to hope more often not you'll be disappointed. Thus, your main aim should be to do the best that you can right now, and to expect nothing at all except the way things turn out, despite your best efforts. That's the only path to a peaceful mind. How long will you wait before you demand the best of yourself, and rust season to determine what is best? Do every act of life as if it were your last. The expectations that you bring to your meditation are often the greatest obstacles you will encounter. Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself. Remember that your perception of the world is a reflection of your state of consciousness. The bravest sight in the world is to see a great man struggling against adversity. The greatest blessings of mankind are within us and within our reach. A wise man is contented with his lot, whatever it may be. Happiness isn't outside of us, but actually comes from within. He suffers more than necessary who suffers before it is necessary. When you are offended at any man's fault, turn to yourself and study your own failings. Then you will forget your anger. If anyone tells you that a certain person speaks ill of you, do not make excuses about what is said of you, but answer, "He was ignorant of my other faults, else he would not have mentioned these alone." Begin to begin is half the work, that half still remain again. Begin this, and thou wilt have finished. Whatever happens to you has been waiting to happen since the beginning of time. The twining strands of fate wove both of them together. Don't hope that events will turn out the way you want. Welcome events in whichever way they happen. This is the path to peace. If you are pained by an external thing, it is not this thing that disturbs you, but your own judgment about it. And it is in your power to wipe out this judgment now. Every difficulty in life presents us with an opportunity to turn inward and to invoke our own inner resources. The trials we endure can and should introduce us to our strengths. Prudent people look beyond the incident itself and seek to form the habit of putting it to good use. On the occasion of an accidental event, don't just react in a haphazard fashion. Remember to turn inward and ask what resources you have for dealing with it. Dig deeply. You possess strengths you might not even realize you have. Find the right one. Use it. Define for me now what the indifferents are. Whatever things we cannot control. Tell me the upshot. They are nothing to me. You can discard most of the junk that clutters your mind and clear out space for yourself by comprehending the scale of the world, by contemplating infinite time, by thinking of the speed with which things change. Each part of everything, the narrow space between our birth and death, the infinite time before, the equally unbounded time that followed. Let us meet with bravery, whatever may befall us. Let us never feel a shudder at the thought of being wounded, or being made a prisoner, or of poverty or persecution. Floods will rob us of one thing, fire of another. These are conditions of our existence, which we cannot change. What we can do is adopt a noble spirit, such a spirit as befits a good person, so that we may bear up bravely under all that fortune sends us, and bring our wills into tune with nature's. Today I escaped from anxiety, or no, I discarded it, because it was within me, in my own perceptions, not outside. Things stand outside of us, themselves by themselves, neither knowing anything of themselves, nor expressing any judgment. Fate leads the willing and drags along the reluctant. Just as nature takes every obstacle, every impediment, and works around it, turns it to its purposes, incorporates it into itself, so too a rational being can turn each setback into raw material and use it to achieve its goal.